Thank you for another session of Azure Power Lunch. And today about Azure Lab Services. So here is, I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully everybody can see it. Um, and folks, I have to really apologize. By the way, the title is not right. It should be Azure Lab Services. Okay. Um, the IM window is not working. So if you have a question, please feel free to ask. Open mic and feel free to ask. Okay. So quickly, uh, as we normally start, we start with our some of the Azure service updates. So this week, um, the big news: Microsoft Azure is now available from new cloud regions in Germany. So there are two regions. This is, I think, if you have worked with Azure for some time, I'm pretty sure you're aware that we normally have a pair of regions in a pair of data center or regions in every what we call a geo. And by the way, when we talk about region, just want to spend a minute on it. It doesn't mean a data center. I uh, kind of the picture that kind of is simple to understand is a pizza. So if you consider region as a pizza, each slice is a zone if there is zones available, and each topping is a data center. So there are multiple data centers in a region. So right now we have two regions in Germany, um, in Berlin and in Frankfurt. So these two regions, basically, if you are doing geo replication, then you can replicate data between regions and all. So this is kind of provides you full data sovereignty, even though you are doing geo replication and all that. So this is great news for if you have customers, or if you have customers in Germany, or you're working with customers in Germany. There was a big ask that for managed disk, large managed disk, backup of large managed disk. So now we have up to 30 terabyte disk, managed disk, that you can do backups on. And one thing is, for such a large disk, they have broken down the the process's overall backup between snapshot and writing to the wall. So, where you don't have to repeat the whole process if something, breaks down. So this is kind of, all goodness. So this is something to keep in mind. And Express Route, if you remember when Express Route started, we used to have, very few partners, and we used to have very few Meet Me sites. But now we have more and more sites around the globe available, and these are the three new Meet Me sites. So what happens is, with Express Route, we have our regions all over the globe, and then Meet Me sites where you peer with Microsoft Fiber, which connects all Microsoft data centers across the globe. So that's where you jump onto that Microsoft Fiber, and that's the Meet Me location. So these are the new Meet Me location. Goal is to provide location to meet customer where they are, closer to where they have their data center located. So so they can quickly hop on to Azure Fiber and take advantage of it. Okay, so that's very key advantage with having those more Meet Me locations. So these are some updates. I mean, as usual, uh, you want to look at the Azure Update site. There's also an Azure blog site available. Subscribe to the RSS feed, because there are tons of updates happens every week. So if any questions. Okay, so let's start with our topic of discussion. By the way, I will post the slide deck. The link of the slide deck will be in the YouTube channel video description. I haven't uploaded the last week's video, so I will upload both of the videos hopefully today. Oh, by the way, just one clarification. Next week, there won't be any session. So uh, I'm based in South Central US, and Microsoft South Central, basically the whole US team is having a kind of uh, kickoff, and I'm out. Uh, that's why we are out next week. So there would be no session next week. I will cancel the meetings. If somebody join through another link, please note that there won't be any session next week on um, 20th. Okay. So today's topic of discussion is Azure Lab Services. Uh, if you have heard about Azure DevTest Lab, the reason Azure DevTest Labs came in, which allowed you the capability of turning off, turning on VMs, basically providing a sandbox to your developers where they can have the ability to spin up machines to customize, but to a certain extent, where you can provide them tools to make them productive, but at the same time put control guardrails around it so it doesn't kind of, I mean, VMs doesn't start spinning up like brush fire. Because in Azure, I mean, yes, you have the great power of spinning up the resources, but with great power comes great responsibility. So that's what Azure DevTest Lab try to do. But this offering Azure Lab Services is built on top of Azure DevTest Lab. What it allows you to do is address a specific scenario or some specific scenario which are related to classrooms in the cloud. So a number of organizations, as they kind of work or provide readiness for their employees or to their partners, or even some cases for their customers. I mean, they're learning organization. I mean, teaching or you know provide organizations that provide learning. How what is the best way to provide hands-on lab? One is, okay, install the hands-on lab on your machine, but not all machines are created equal or create physical infrastructure. But let's say that when nobody's using that infrastructure, why you have that infrastructure, you are paying for it. And then there are, as I said, the students devices. There are many devices, a lot of variety. I mean, they have I mean, some people, they are mostly work from devices that are not meant for development, like they work from iPad, so they just want to do those labs. Or in then how you approach that. So that's why this kind of becomes a big challenge. That's where Azure Lab Services comes into picture. It provides you a simple, cost effective way to create those labs and provide it to your customer and or to your team, to your organization, where you only pay. Once again, the promise of the cloud, where you only pay for what you use. It's easy to um, create those labs, configure those, give access to the user, set schedule, and we will take a look at few of those things. Okay. Since the only thing that you need to access the lab is a browser and a remote desktop, I mean, you can access it from any device anywhere in the world. Okay. And what you can do is somebody can from the organization can provision a lab service account, and we will take a look at it. And then other individual in and give access to other individuals as lab creators. They can create labs and manage their own labs and all the infrastructure. And then some other people in their team as well can basically uh, participate in publishing those labs to end users. And that's how you have a clear separation of responsibility and at the same time flexibility, so you can provide these training resources to your customer. Okay. Process is very simple, and we will take a look at it. A lab account is set up. You ask lab creators to give, basically give people access as lab creators. They create labs, configure it. Basically, this is the image. And what is a lab? This is the image. You can bring your own image. Of course, if you have a lab image, you have a certain tool that you want to train people on, or certain labs that you have internally, or you got from something, you can set all that up, publish your labs, invite users inside or outside your organization, and you can control, send them link and they can log in and start, and you can control their schedule, when they can or cannot use the labs and all that. So once and so they can basically end to end, you can in a very simplistic fashion, you can control the entire thing. So I'm just gonna go. Yeah, these are some of the FAQs. Okay, so let's quickly do this. Let's see what is the experience of creating a lab account. By the way, any questions so far? Okay. So first of all, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go to all services and I'm gonna create Azure Lab Services. So as you can see here, once I type lab, there is a dev test labs. So this is in the case if you need to set up dev test environment, or let's say for some reason Azure, you wanna do a very customized lab, which is, in no way Azure Lab Services provide the kind of things that you provide, the tools that you cannot do with Azure Lab Services. Then you can use Azure Dev Test Labs to do it. But we're going to start with Azure Lab Services. So this is basically, that's how you create a lab account. So what you will do is you will, first of all, you will do a lab account. So we're going to call it AZPL. Okay. And we're going to create it in so let's do it here. Oh, by the way, you can hear now, you can. And if you're not familiar with Shared Image Gallery, Shared Image Gallery is a service that is provided by Azure. So you can share images across subscriptions. So let's say, and across locations. So let's say that you have a large organization which is spread across or doesn't mean a large organization or small organization. They are spread across the um, country or across the globe, and they have multiple subscription, and you don't want to create these images in each subscription and copy that and pay for storage. You can create shared image gallery, and in that shared image gallery you can store your standard images to make sure that when infrastructure is deployed, those images are used. So that's where you use shared image gallery, and probably we'll do a session later on shared image gallery. In any case, you can use shared image gallery, so where you can put images, or you can use existing image gallery, or you don't use none. Okay, you can peer um, to an existing virtual network. So let's say that your lab involves doing something with networking. Let's say it's accessing some resources on-prem or whatever your requirement is, or accessing resources in a network. That's where you can peer that to a network. Okay. Um, you can enable, when the lab creator want to create the lab, you want them to pick the location of the lab. Otherwise, you just lock the location to whatever you have defined. So that all you can do. Once I create it, what it's going to do is it's going to start creating the lab. It will take a minute or two to create the lab. We already have a lab account. And by the way, at this point, it is not creating a lab, it is just creating a lab account. So this is basically, think of it, an administration, operational side of setting up a lab. So a lab account, once you have the lab account, you can add lab creator. So this is operations team giving access to the lab creators, basically people who can then go in and create labs for different readiness efforts. This is basically giving them access. So what you can do is you can ask them, you can do role assignments. So, you know, sorry. So you can give somebody, so for example, I'm going to use, and I have, this is my Azure AD tenant that I use, and I'm going to give Black Panther, an access as a lab creator. So that's how he can sign in and create lab for Wakanda. In any case, and this is a UI. This is the UI where lab creators, once they sign in, by the way, they won't be able to change anything in the core configuration like VNet peering, like shared image gallery. So they work under the boundaries set by the person who created, lab account. Okay. So what they can do is they can go to this URL, and there they can go in and start creating those labs. So for example, I already have one lab here. What I can do is I can go in and I can create a new lab. Let's say I want to create a AKS lab, and I'm just going to say one VM. And what it's going to do is at this point, it is just creating a placeholder. It's not creating anything else. It's just creating a placeholder. So once that placeholder is created, then I can go in and set up images and, set up things so here I can pick different things. So I will say, let's say I want to use a medium machine, medium with nested virtualization, large, small CPU, virtualization. So these are different variety that I get. So I'm let's gonna go with small. And what is the image name? So these are different images that are available. And once again, you, if you have the images, and by the way, those images will depend on what you select for the virtual machine size, because not everything can run on everything. So let's say you just want to use Visual Studio Enterprise. Let's do next. Okay, what will be the credentials? So these are the credentials for the machine when a user sign in. So I'm just going to add administrator, and I'm going to provide some password. Oh, come on. Okay. Lab admin and then the password. If I want, you can use the same password. If this is disabled, they will be asked to create the password for the first time. So this you control completely. Any questions? Um, Okay, so then you configure the template. So by the way, what it's gonna do is once you are configuring the template, it will basically generate the the image. The image at that time, no VMs are running. Okay, once you generate the image, at after that, once people start signing in, then then basically you will start getting consumption, because what will happen is those people sign in, they get to their machine and they start playing with it. When the machines are running, that's when you get start all the charging starts happening. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm just going to show we already have this lab running. So this is a web app. I already pre-created it because it takes 20 minutes to set it up. So this is basically the dashboard. It shows you these are different machines that are running, virtual machines. Okay, if we click on it, what virtual machines there are, it will show you what virtual machines there are. And there is only one machine. So if you have 10 users, you may want to have 10 machines and people are connected to it. then what are the schedules? So what time you want them to work on those machines? You know, you may want to have put limits so they cannot, so you can control the usage and make sure that they access those machines only during that time. Users, that's where you can add user. I have added a user. It's as simple as adding an email or list of email addresses here, or you can upload a CSV here. Okay, and what you can do is get a registration link and email it to the send invite to the user. You can invite once you add the users there, or you can email the link. So for example, let's say that I mean, if I add a user here, let's say, save it. This is gonna add the new user here, and if I want, I can send the invite to that user. So this will basically send the invite. This is as simple as that. And of course, you can do all these. Okay, so that's pretty much that side. So let's go on to a VM, and what we're gonna do is try to access that particular invitation. So I have, this is the invitation link that I have copied from the email. Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna open a new incognito window, and I'm gonna try to register for the lab. And it's gonna ask me, okay, and first of all, it's gonna ask me for my email address. So this is the previous invitation that I have sent. I'm registering for it. Okay, so let me enter my password, and it says a two-factor auth. So let's do this, and I am in. So it's saying, welcome, you're registered. It's sending me to the lab services. And now I can log in and connect to my virtual machines. So basically as simple as that. So end to end, very seamless experience. You don't have to worry about what virtual machines are running. I mean, you can set up, do a lot of customizations here. Uh, that's the that's the power of of this the Azure DevTest Labs. And once you are done, you can remove that and delete the labs, and everything just goes away. And you're not paying for anything. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do is a few of the things in terms of customization. Of course, you can change the disk images, which is going to be the main thing. And if you, I'm not sure if you have seen it or not, there was there were GPU based machines available there as well, which you can use, which use GPU like the NVIDIA GPU, so you can infuse machines, so you can use them in your labs as well. So let's go back to our slide deck. So this is a documentation link is also there, and then there is the how the GUI is streamlined. And just keep in mind, when you log in and you have given access to a lab as a lab user, you will only see that lab. This is a lab creator view that you see currently in this presentation. So that's where you kind of republish, publish it and republish your templates and all, and restrict user access one more time, and who is accessing what VMs, set the schedule, uh, and this is a view for students. So once they kind of sign in, they can see what VMs they have, all that. So with that, I think that's all I have for today. Any questions?
Yes, this is Tony. I have a question about when would you use this, and then, would you consider it to be a production environment or not? Like
Oh,
a good example would be like, let's say I have a university, right? Would produce this for the student body for, let's say they attend a class, they can spin up basically a lab for that class.
mhm.
So would that be valid usage, or would
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay?
yeah, exactly. I
Now
mean,
what?
that's the classic usage of this thing. Yeah.
Okay. Now what about they spin up this lab and using that to develop
Hmm.
code, right? So basically, it's a developer environment,
Hmm.
and would that be a valid scenario?
Oh, development environment. Um, you know, it may or may not. The thing is, as long as they're using a repository like Git or DevOps
Right.
and moving artifacts off it, I think because what's going to happen is once they're done, they're, I mean,
No, I
the
mean like no,
machine will
yeah,
be repurposed. Yeah,
yeah. They'll basically have DevOps as the
that's right.
repository, but then this is where
Absolutely.
they'll install Visual
Yes.
Studio. They'll come in there, develop code for the next 2 or 3 years. I was gonna go, is that valid, or because then
That's
basically it's really not a lab; it's more like a development environment.
Yeah, my only concern is that each time they come in, they basically have a brand new, possibly have a brand new um kind of clean slate. So let's
Correct.
say they have to download all the code and do all that. So may not be for that. I mean, it may
Well,
be
no,
for
because
developer training. Yeah,
the customer actually built their own image with all that stuff in it already. So when they actually,
yeah.
when they're getting new VMs, it's all the tools and all the bell and whistles loaded already.
No, absolutely, you're right. But my only concern is, let's say I developed something yesterday. Okay,
Right.
I checked in my code. I come in next day. Now I have to download all of it again.
Yep.
you know so that's, I mean, if yeah, that would be the challenge. Other than that, yeah, I mean, as long as they remember to check in all their changes and get off of that, then yeah, it's a possible use. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I have a customer thinking about using that for their offshore, contractor team coming in and out,
Yeah.
and they were trying to figure out how to ship them, VMs or laptop or something like that, or they're looking at this options.
No, no, absolutely. And I mean, dev test labs another one where you can do more customization. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. So, folks, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your weekend. Just keep in mind, no session next week on 20th. So we will resume after that on back on 27th, but no session on 20th. Okay. Bye bye. Great day.